Thank you, and thank you, Ari. What a great start to the evening. What a pleasure it is to see you all here tonight, and what a pleasure it has been putting this dinner together. As always, I owe a strong debt of gratitude to our Common Cause New York Board Chair, Susan Rubenstein, whose unerring good taste, grace, and wonderful wry humor make all our work together productive and enjoyable. And I'd like Susan to stand so that we can acknowledge her contributions. For a group whose tagline is holding power accountable, having the opportunity to recognize the courageous leadership of Lance Lindblom, who helped move foundations from passive investors to active stockholder owners holding corporate power accountable from the inside, is a privilege indeed. How very honored we are to have Tom DiNapoli, the New York State Comptroller, who has championed using the power of the New York pension funds investments to foster corporate accountability. And we're so happy that he is here to present the Democracy in Action Award to Lance. We're proud to learn from and partner with both of them in our corporate accountability work, and to be able to have them share with you tonight the tremendous strides they have helped bring about in corporate transparency and accountability. We don't often offer joint awards, lots of complicated reasons why, much less one where the honor is shared by 8 different firms. But we felt that the efforts of the New York firms involved in election protection deserve more recognition for their good work here in New York, where they do that work, not just for meeting the challenge of Hurricane Sandy head-on, but for their long-standing efforts that have helped tens of thousands of voters around the country. We're very grateful to be able to enlist the help of Dan Kolb, of Davis Polk, and of Barbara Arnwine and the staff of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights to make the evening a fitting tribute to the firms and their lawyers' hard work and dedication to protecting our right to vote. Now, you may have noticed that 2 of our honorees, Lance Lindblom and Marjorie Lindblom, one receiving the Democracy in Action Award and one receiving a Champion of Democracy Award on behalf of her firm, Kirkland & Ellis, share the same last name. If you did, then you are more perceptive than I am. Imagine my chagrin to find out that I failed to realize that they are husband and wife, when in response to my invitation to Lance to accept the Democracy in Action Award, he modestly responded that he might as well accept, since he was planning to be at the dinner anyway, sitting at Marjorie's table because she was receiving an award. Happily, we weren't so clueless in setting our goals for the past year. I can honestly say that I am prouder of the work that we have accomplished in the past year at Common Cause New York than I am of almost anything else that I have been associated with. 2 years of careful planning and hard work, supported by the contributions of many of you who are here today for our Citizens Redistricting Commission project, paid off spectacularly. The Common Cause reform maps, nonpartisan, non-political redistricting maps drawn by our research and policy coordinator, Brian Paul, were heralded by the New York Times as straightforward and fair, dubbed damn good by the Daily News, and called the best possible outcome by the Albany Times-Union. But I really can't describe to you how I felt sitting in a federal courtroom that Ari alluded to recently, just a moment ago, in Brooklyn in early March of last year, hearing the 3-judge panel order all of the litigants to explain to the court why it should not just adopt the Common Cause district maps as the official congressional district map for the next decade. At that moment, I realized that we had actually achieved one of our goals, that the nonpartisan, non-politicized maps that we drew truly had become, as Newsday called them, the golden standard. I think we can all feel justifiably proud that the court adopted substantial parts of the Common Cause congressional maps, and as a result, nearly double the number of congressional districts here in New York are now competitive. So I would like to thank Sean Coffey, Evan Davis, and the other members of the Common Cause New York Board for their support, sage advice, and unwavering encouragement for our redistricting work, and I'd like to ask our board to stand to be acknowledged. Our offices in Lower Manhattan were without power or phones, and those of us living in Brooklyn couldn't even get to Manhattan after Hurricane Sandy. It looked like all of our months of hard work and planning, preparing to field teams of volunteers to help voters at busy polling places around the city and in select upstate areas, part of our national Grassroots Election Protection Program, might well be for naught. But instead of throwing up our hands in defeat, Common Cause staff and interns walked or biked from Greenpoint, Bushwick, Clinton Hill, and Bay Ridge to turn my living room in Fort Greene into a command center. There we were sitting around my dining table, eating pizza. We made endless numbers of calls to volunteers, assuring them that the program was continuing, assigning people to election day shifts, designing special flyers to distribute in the storm shelters to remind people that Election Day was indeed happening on November 6th, and on just 3 days' notice, recruiting, training, and deploying over 20 teams of canvassers who visited each and every storm shelter in the city on the day before the election to let voters know that they still had the right to vote. So I would like to thank our staff, Joel Beefus, Sam Massol, and Brian Paul, for their energy and dedication in working the long hours needed to pull off our grassroots election protection work last year, and acknowledge the support and assistance we received from our coalition partners at SEIU 32BJ and 1199, who helped us provide information to those in the shelters. But it wasn't just our staff that came through with flying colors. I'd like to share with you a video that shares some of the experiences of our grassroots election protection volunteers.
My name is Rachel Taylor, and I volunteer at the Thomas Edison High School.
My name is Chelsea, and I was in Queens.
I'm Mimi Toffer, and this
Ed Colhoun.
And we worked on East 33rd Street between 2nd and 3rd.
When I was at the election center, there were people who saw the line and turned away.
It was crazy. There were lines around the block for most of the morning. Some people waited over 2 hours.
There were a lot of people who were just leaving because the line was taking so long. And just because we saw them and we were like, did you have any trouble voting? And they would come up to us and we were like, oh, this is a problem, so I'm just going to go. So we would convince them to go back and actually vote.
I was gratified that I was able to help elderly and slightly disabled people, given the cold. They were afraid, the long lines, they were afraid that they couldn't wait in line, and I was able to show them, as long as they knew their ED number, that we could get them beyond that line to their district table inside.
There was a lot of confusion that happened because of Sandy. So a lot of people's polling places were turned into what were called super sites. And so a lot of people didn't know where their super site was. So we could actually, call the hotline to look that up, or if people went in and that wasn't technically their district or their voting site, they could still vote there. But a lot of people didn't know that.
In the past few years, we've had a lot of really close elections in New York, and that demonstrates that just a few more people could have a really big impact.
This is something that you can do to not just cast your one vote, but maybe help 10 or 100 or 1,000 more people get their vote cast as well.
People really appreciated our presence there.
Helping someone actually cast their ballot, that's really rewarding work.
You'll have a great feeling when it's over.
And it's so important to participate in your community and in your nation.
I would love to volunteer with Common Cause again.
Volunteer for Common Cause.